Hello and welcome into Off Topic with Laird. That's me, Andrew Laird, brought to you by Sorare Data. My normal solo show. I have a guest today because it's my show. I can do whatever I want. NepentheZ, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I actually got approved from one of your colleagues on the Sorare data application partnership thing. I think what done it was in the section that was like, why do you want to become a Sorare data partner? I literally put loads of money. So I think that's what done it.
I was aware of that submission, and I believe it actually said that you wanted to do it to get loads of money to then put back into Sorare.
That is true. Yeah, there you go.
And it was like, yeah, let's get this guy in for sure. Yeah. So congratulations on that as becoming a Sorare data affiliate. Thank you everybody for joining us. Looks like Rob C was first in like an hour ago, and Nellis like half an hour ago saying, let's go already. And you were just early, man. Settle down. There was a comment in a community that you and I are both in asking if this was the oldest cumulative age of two people who have ever streamed before. And I like to think that everybody's just coming in to hear the adults speak. That's all.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, although PSU fans looks like he's about 90, he's actually younger than me. So that's surprising, but
yeah, I like to not to like compare ages, but I believe that I feel younger than Sean.
Yeah,
I'm not.
He openly admits that as well, though. That's the thing, isn't it? He knows.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to him the other day for a few hours, and it was good to pick his brain about a few things so rare. Then we got to discussing, work life and homework life, and he's just the same as me at the moment. You sit in your desk, 16 hours a day. There's time for self-care, but that would be time away from your desk, and that's a bad thing. So yeah, you just sit there and you just put on loads of weight and eat loads of junk and complain. That's it.
As somebody that Haber says the stream was late because they were getting their kids to teach them how the computer works. I was going to say we were actually just going to have the thumbnail that was just going to be on the screen, and then you and I were just going to call each other on the phone. Yeah, old-fashioned, like long distance phone call, $8 a minute.
Yeah, classic podcast, that one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's just what people want. That's it. The point of there's no point in today's show, but I was watching your stream the other day. I mean, what was that? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yes. So Wednesday. I say that as if you don't stream for 12 hours every single day, but Wednesday's stream caught my eye for two reasons. One, I happened to be. I don't know why my morning was any different, but I was able to like catch it live for a little bit. And I think Sorare was in the title. So I was like, yeah, let's dive in here. And you were talking about your gallery and where you've been. And you felt a bit, or it came off that you were being not pessimistic, but you were a little bit down on like what had happened. And then you were like, and I talked to Sean for hours yesterday, and I was like, well, that's why he's so depressed about everything. But it just reminded me of like you filled in for Sean actually on our strategy show. It's been a couple weeks now, and it reminded me of this line that you had in there as you were trying to egg me on to sell all my limited cards, and you said, "If you do it, I'll do it," and I did it.
No,
and you did not do it.
No, I did not do it.
And yeah, you still won't
have a valid reason now. Much like the tickets we were just talking about, I couldn't give them away. Like they are genuinely so like just worthless. They're just worthless. They are. Like I could probably sell like the top line, like the first 7 or 8 cards are worth about 99.3% of the entire limited valuation. So I could maybe just go and sell those on the open market. Everything else, there's zero benefit to selling it.
So it's funny you say that because that's exactly the situation I had. That when I was talking to Fabian, who I sold them to, we were going through the valuations, and I went through and I had some pretty good ones, and you get to like, I think it was 110 I sold, and you get to like the 18th, and you're like, oh my god, literally the rest of them are worthless.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I was like, but I don't even want them anymore. Like I was actually, it almost felt like I was paying him to take them away.
Yeah. And I do like I set my lineups on Wednesday because I got married yesterday, and
Oh, congratulations.
very much. And I wasn't sure if I'd be back in time here, but I hadn't set the limited lineups. And then
Mhm.
I getting home like 2 hours before game week lock, sat down, made some changes. So probably screwed up my lineups that were going to win, and now they're not going to win. And I sat down and thought, "Oh, could I even be bothered to plug the limited lineups in?" And so I literally just pressed on whatever the first competition it was, got the highest L15s, just clicked them in, and just did that all the way through limited. And that's now how I know I don't care about limiteds,
Yeah.
because even last game week, I went onto Sorare data immediately and just hid all the limited lineups. I just don't even care if they win. I just don't care. Yeah.
And yet you keep them around.
Yeah, because there's like so many of them, isn't there? No, it's collectible, isn't it? That's the whole point of Sorare, right? Like it's a site for collecting. So yeah, I'm waiting for the day that Sorare release a first owner only tournament, and I'm going to have hundreds of like reward cards at limited level that are all useless, but nobody else will have any. So
Right.
I'll be the only one that can enter it. Yeah.
All right, genius. All right. Let me go. Let me go hit the auctions now and try to win some more. No, there was one part of the stream that and anybody who hasn't watched it, I did tweet about it. Speaking of which, you can follow Nep on Twitter at NepentheZ. Excellent follow, longtime follower here. You were going back and looking at, and I hesitate to bring this up, but there's a point to it. That the point that I saw that was when you were talking about your Thomas Mueller limited, and we talked about the Lewandowski limited on the strategy show when you were on, and you were like, if for what you paid for the limited, you can get the super rare and limited today. And that's when I was like, I need to talk to Nep, because I was like,
Yeah.
So it's impossible to forget stuff like that. Like I want to be like, just don't worry about it. It happened. Like, just forget it. But like, I know you're not going to forget that. But I think it's really important that we remember when we do things at the time, that at the time, whatever you could get today was not available. Like the super rare Mueller was much more expensive then. And so like, it's not like, and had you just waited, like we just don't know. And so it's not like, man, if I just waited 8 months, then I could have just cleaned up. It's like, well, sure, didn't stop playing and then just come back in 8 months. And I needed to say that to you, that like,
Oh,
I know you can't forget it, but move on.
What you never see, because it's not kind of like visualized, not in a good way anyway, on any like data site or anything really, is like how positive equity in cards has gone over time as well. It's very easy to look at a card that you paid X amount for, and now it's worth 90% less than there. But it's like my Dennis Vavro, I paid 0.7 ETH for him, and his points alone have netted me 1 ETH of rewards, and he's probably worth 1 to 1.5 ETH. And it's like, that's not really visualized in any particular manner. So for every Thomas Muller, there's a Dennis Vavro. So it's not all bad. But as we discussed the first time I was on the strategy show with you, because I bought in high on crypto, high on limiteds, and looking back now, I hate myself for it, because it's like, I bought the Kimmich that I bought was like number 70 something, and it's like 1,000 of these could get minted. It was there, like the information of like there's going to be loads of it was there, but in the heat of the moment, you're just like, yeah, I'm going to get Kimmich, I'm going to win everything, and I'm going to be a billionaire. And it didn't really work out.
Yet. What do you mean?
Yet, that's right. Yeah, didn't work out yet. But that is where, like on the stream where I was discussing, like I can invest again now, and I feel like now is a really good time to do it. But I also felt like that when I did it, it was a really good time to do it, and it just wasn't. So now I'm kind of like, it really has to be like the right card at the right price, and I suffer massively with fear of missing out, and so I want every card at any price. So that internal battle of like like Sean linked me earlier on, the Erdegaard Super Rare is on the market, and I'm like, yeah, I just bought Rob Holding Super Rare as well, so now I've got 3 Arsenal Super Rares. If I can get the 4th one, I'll get into that 2% range, and I think on Super Rares, that's a considerable points bonus.
For sure.
And so I'm like, be a good price, Sean, like 1.5, 2. He's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't go over 1.5 ETH. And I'm like, 10 minutes ago, I had no intention of spending 1.5 ETH. Now I'm like, all right, I need to go and get some ETH. And it's, yeah. And that's the problem. It's like that 1.5 ETH instead could be better served somewhere else. But I have an issue, which you told me off about, I suppose, on Discord the other day. Is like, I should stop buying rares. Like, I have too many rares, but they're just so cheap, aren't they? Like, they're just so desirable. It's like, oh, look at this like L1565 guy that's like £3. How can I not? You know?
Yeah, I'm going to stay by that. I don't think you should ever buy a rare card ever again. And regardless of whatever the prices are, I think just the way that your gallery is. And so you were talking about, you know, what you wanted to do, whether you want to like plow in a bunch of ETH and like what you would do with that. And it does feel like, so it's one of those situations where there's never going to be a person who has a gallery around your size or my size where somebody's like, do you think it would be better if you had 10 more ETH? And it's like, of course. Like, of course it's going to be better. Like, yeah. It almost doesn't even matter what you spend it on. But like, yes, having more in this game helps. But the other point that you were going through in your stream was like sticking to your strategy. And this is actually something that Sean and I joke about a lot, because there are a lot of people who we talk to and talk about who are like so steadfast in their strategy, and they're like, this is what I'm doing, and then it doesn't work like 2 game weeks in a row, and they're like, let me just change my strategy, when really the answer is like, maybe it's fine, but also maybe it's just actually one player that's different, or
just a test of time, right?
Yeah. And I will say that's one thing that I feel like is a little misunderstood with Chani, because like Chani is actually pretty good sticking to a strategy. He is not good at sticking to players, but maybe he likes like moving in and out. But I think that at least the way that he does it is a little more like, it gives it a little more runtime to be like, is this the right strategy? Whereas sometimes you just have people who are like, all right, I'm going U23 super rare this week, and they buy 5 super rares and they like spend all this money and it doesn't work. And they're like, you know what? All-Star Limited is really for me. And then they do that. And I'm like probably the worst person to tell other people to be patient on so rare.
Yeah.
But I think that it's okay to be impatient with players, but you should be patient with strategy, which is really, really hard, and just exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, and one of the things I saw you talking about it was on a strategy show with Sean, and you was looking back historically at what scores teams would have got if you had them, and you're like, it's the most pointless exercise, because what they have had has zero bearing on what they might get. However, if you built a team now that you're like, right, I'm going to go through the whole summer with this MLS team or this North American team or South American team or whatever, and I'm going to go through the whole summer. If you built that team and looked back and it won 3 out of 10 game weeks, and that return on was like 50 to 70% of the investment from those rewards, you'd be like, that's really nice. You know, 70% back. I still own the cards. It won 3 out of 10 game weeks. In those other 7 game weeks, looking backwards, they're an afterthought. But when you're going through them, you're like, man, 3 weeks in a row, I've won literally nothing. They're the wrong players. It's the wrong strategy. But actually, if you believe in your strategy, you have to give it that time to then be able to look back historically and say, did it work or didn't it? Which I'm very bad at doing.
That's such a good point, that like you almost just completely ignore the weeks it didn't work. And realistically, they don't work more often than they work.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's also a strategy thing that people tend to overlook, is they'll use the concept builder to do just that. How did this 5-player lineup do? But then when you're really in it, the only time that you would play that 5-player lineup every week, the same lineup, is if you literally had no other cards.
Yeah.
Because sometimes this guy's a better matchup this week, so you put him in, and now the concept doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just not
irrelevant. Yeah. And it would be wise. And I don't know. I obviously the Sorare data tools, the lineup builders and stuff are really good. But for me, I struggle having to click in to see a team and then click out and click in to see a team. And I would love like a tile board where I can just move bits around. That would be ideal, because then I could like, on the weeks where I'm like, might have a player short in, like, I'm now going to focus on All-Star Rare Pro and just Rare Pro divisions anyway going forwards. But on the weeks where it's like, okay, I've actually got my core 5, but they haven't got a game this week because it got moved to a midweek or something, I can then kind of shift a piece over and really like understand, do I need to buy somebody, or do I not want to buy somebody because even if I did buy somebody, the matchups aren't great? And I could actually like just be like, okay, this will just be a write-off week, and accept that fact that it's not going to be a great week. And that would be difficult. And yeah, you know, I probably would then go and overspend on somebody that I don't want and never be able to get rid of them. But having that 5, I mean, I think it's impossible to win with 5. If you even put the best L15 guys in lineup builder now, they probably don't win rewards every week, and they probably don't win ever. But if you have your 5, then having some pieces around those that make sense that you can then put down into a division below, that is a really smart strategy. And that's when I was talking to Sean the other night. He had like some people above a line and some people below a line, like from my pieces, and then some of those above the line were like marked as just elite pieces. You know, doesn't matter who they play against or anything. And I went and put those guys into lineup builder, and they literally would never ever have podiumed for me, even though they're like the elite choices every week. And that's not to say that they're bad players. It's just say a lot has to come together to finish in the top 3 of a tournament that hundreds or thousands of people enter. Like you can theorize as much as you want and strategize as much as you want, but if some random goalkeeper gets an assist and a penalty save, we're just screwed. That's it.
Yeah, the I don't even want to call it randomness, because it's variance more than it is randomness. But yeah, it's just that I think like when you build lineups, because I was talking about, I mean, this is exactly what Sean and I talked about earlier this week. Like when you submit lineups, obviously our goal is always to finish in first. But I think we all look at our lineups and we're like, I know this is not finishing first. So have you been building lineups to finish first?
No. And it's I'm a dreamer, right? I stuck with Che Nunnally, who hit 1 decisive in about 70 games. And he was just in all of my priority lineups because eventually he was going to score again. And I paid like £300 for him, and he was just god awful. And I managed to sell him for about £130. And then the game week that I sold him, he scored. And then the next game week, he scored again. And then he got released. And turns out now I actually need him back because he's part of a Willem 2 collection where I've got Muric and Tressel. So I am going to be getting Che Nunnally back. But when I like some of my lineups, I think this has a genuine chance of like winning. But then things happen, and in the MLS, like I thought I knew a lot about the MLS. I feel like I do know a lot about it, but also I don't really understand the gravity of the travel, the distances, how much impact playing at different altitudes makes. And you know, some people in the stream sometimes say to me like, you don't really want to play him away, like he just won't score well because they're playing like 6,000 feet above sea level. And I'll be like, nah, these guys are fixture proof, I'll put him in anyway. And then they'll drop like a 15 or just stay on the bench or something like that. Yes, buddy. All right, buddy, thank you. Mind your feet. Good boy. Sorry about that. Yeah, and it's like having like what I tried to do was have loads of chance lineups in loads of divisions and hope that if you throw enough crap at the wall, eventually it will stick. And every now and then it does. And this is what I said in the streams, like, is there a case to be made that not having a strategy is a strategy in itself? Like, if you've just got enough pieces in your gallery, will something eventually just fall together? But I think Yeah, you might win here or there with that, and I've been winning a whole bunch of tier fives and tier fours. But if I just won one tier one, it covers off like 6 weeks of winning tier fives and tier fours. So having like, and now I will focus intensely on rare pro divisions in every single like division.
Yep.
And I did it this week. I don't have an all-star super rare team this week because of it. I don't have a cap 240 super rare team this week because of it. I didn't even go for the cap 270 golden thing. I actually put a team into kickoff unique instead. And that's because I had 3 pieces left over that were very good. And I was like, for me, I either have to now buy another really good super rare to put these into all-star rare, super rare, which I don't want to do, or I just have these 3 really good pieces left over. And I thought that is the point, though, isn't it? It's like you can't just have a position for everyone. You have to make your choice on matchups and whatnot. And so we'll see. We'll see if this week, if it comes off good, then great. If it doesn't, then I might just buy more limiteds.
So, I think that kind of goes back to the whole quality versus quantity thing. That when you do have those lineups, and I said this to, I was actually talking to Gator Guy this morning because the two of us end up submitting our lineups very late, and I looked at my lineups, and actually, let me pull this up here because this is exactly what. This is not what you are. This is the view I think that you want, and then to be able to just kind of move cards in and out. But this is basically what I stare at on Friday mornings. Like I look at this and I'm like, can I move guys here and there? And I must have moved 15 cards this morning after doing my lineups last night. And I was like, I'm just moving too much, but maybe I'm not. Maybe, and I think the biggest. So I messaged him and I was like, I'm choosing quantity this week. Like nothing seemed to fit well. None of my goalies were really that good. I lost a few of them for different things. And I was just like, I don't really feel like I have a good lineup anywhere. So I'm just going to like spread them out. The only 2 lineups I feel like are borderline competitive are my 2 U23 lineups, which are these top 2 up here. And I don't even play U23 anymore. Like I happen to have these cards still. Like I got a bunch of them when I was playing U23. I got this Cherky last week because everybody keeps talking about him, and I was just annoyed. And partially, I hope he just falters now that I have him, just so I can show off my true powers with killing players. But just what you said, like you have all these cards, and so you want to have as many shots of getting something great. But like maybe instead of, I mean, we have this conversation like all the time. Instead of 15 lineups, would you be better off with just 10 or 8? But then you're like, I really don't want to go through a game week and win nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part.
And that is where it's like, if I had said to you, if I would say to you, in a month's time, you will win 5 ETH or 2 ETH, you would obviously want the 5 ETH. But if I told you that meant 2 of those 4 game weeks, you have literally 0 lineups, you'd be like, well, what? I'd make a lineup, but now you're not winning the 5 ETH because you've changed something,
right?
And it is that it's like it's really difficult. Like this midweek, I just put my lineups in. I didn't expect anything from any of them. I had cap 220 rare, which I knew I had a DNP in, and I put the lineup in anyway. And I thought if the guys that are there do well, I could get a reward. And of course, I have hit a reward. And now I'm sitting there thinking, why didn't I just buy a guy for the player that I knew wasn't going to play? Because now I could have got a really good reward. But the truth of the matter is this was the right thing to do. The reward I get might only be worth £5 or £10. It might be a number 1 serial, might be a jersey mint, might be, it could be a piece of a collection that I'm getting. It could be one of the terrible Arsenal players that never does anything and so is a tier 5, and that would be ideal for me, right? So it might still be all right, but it is still, the strategy was correct. Otherwise, I would have another piece in my gallery that I couldn't sell or I paid for it that will never play again, and I'll be sitting there looking at it thinking, why did I pay, even if it was 20 or 30 quid, when that could have gone towards a super rare that actually improved my gallery?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. So the two things on this: one, you're never going to win something great in 220,
No.
and so I think the do I buy a player for this always revolves around what you can win, and realistically, you're not winning anything here that you're really pumped about. Secondly, look at this Lewandowski limited delivering a reward. Let's go.
Yeah. Winning a rare
Winning a
reward with a
rare,
limited
yeah.
card. Yeah. It's the dream, that is.
Yeah. He's paid off by now, surely, because of this tier 5 rare that's flying into the collection.
I'll go and click on him. Let's have a look at his return on investment. It's going to be bad, I think.
I mean, look
It's
how
a
much
lot
I'm
of
scrolling,
cards.
at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad.
Was there any card here that you won that you were like psyched to win?
None of that is me up. Yeah, I started.
Oh, that's right. That wasn't even you. I was going to say Breck Shea. Oh, you got a Danny Pareo. Surely you could have sold that to Nellis for way too much.
Yeah.
Yamaguchi's good. Hansen, he's a goalie.
Valverde was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a goalkeeper there as well.
You got a Gareth Bale collectible.
Yep. I was actually quite happy with that.
Man,
and then Davey Selke, who actually is an integral part of one of the lineups this week. If I didn't have him, I couldn't submit another lineup. So we'll see if the $4 David Selke can yield.
I mean, it was free. You won it.
Yeah, it was free. Yeah. Well, nothing's free, right? But
well, yeah.
it cost me probably a lineup that was totaling at purchase price about 4 ETH. So
let's find that Selke. Where's so these are literally just you just picked the 5 guys for all the limited ones.
All of them, yeah.
You know, we have like a tool to like make them for you that are not that bad.
Yeah, I just, I think you spoke about it before on one of the shows, and the tool doesn't and will never be able to interpret nuance. And until it can, or if it never does, it just won't be very good, in my opinion.
So you think just clicking all of the top L5 guys is better?
Yep, 100%.
Okay. Well, best of luck with those.
Thanks.
I'm sure they'll be...
What I should do for next game week, because I'll do the same with my limiteds again, is I'll make a video on Sorare data building my lineups, and then I'll do my way, and I can revisit after the fact and see which lineups would have done better, or if they all would have just been awful. And it's a bit sad actually that you can't go backwards on SRD a game week or two, because it would be nice now to go back to this game week, plug in what SRD would have, if that makes sense.
Oh, like to remake them back then, or
to remake them, yeah. Which obviously I understand is a bit difficult if you go back more than 2 game weeks because a lot changes.
Right.
Can you do it? Oh no, it's just a save lineup. So yeah.
So I believe we are going to show results how these lineups would have scored.
Nice.
So that'll help in the future. It might be nobody makes my lineups, so it might be in the community, but that's on the table.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Haber's saying he used to beg you to sell your Bayern stack and invest in rares.
Yeah. But at the time, right, winning a tier 4, I don't even know if tier 4s were there at the time, were they? Tier 3 was the lowest for a while, wasn't it? Yeah, winning a tier 3 limited was like £100. A tier 2 was like £250, and a tier 1 £500, and a star was like thousands of pounds. If you won a star Kimmich in limited, you got like £6,000. So, or like maybe £3,500 is his peak, whatever it was. And so, even though I did spend a lot on the cards that I got, if they won, it would have been no problem at all. But again,
the upside was huge.
Yeah, the upside was huge, but this is where I suppose the power of knowledge comes in. Bayern, by the time I bought them in February. Bayern were so far clear in the league. They were just focusing on Champions League. So they started dropping points and having stinky games against all terrible teams. So of course I buy a Bayern stack when they decide that they're going to give up that season because they've already won the league. So I missed out on all of the thumpings of like 6-0s and 8-0s and whatnots. And then I thought I'd be real clever because everyone said, like, if you have a goalkeeper, like buy the backup goalkeeper. So I paid about £700 for Bayern's backup goalkeeper, and then he never got a game.
Yeah.
Their prices all went down. And then when Neuer did injure himself, they bought somebody else.
Yeah.
I didn't even get the upside for him. Like, you know, I did the right thing and it was still the wrong thing. So, yeah.
That was Ulreich, right? Sven Ulreich?
It was Ulreich, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might not have been £700, but it was hundreds of pounds that I bought him for.
He got one game, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a handful of games. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's your Bayern collection.
Yep. I did have Fructal as well. Now I sold Fructal because he changed clubs and became a starter. So I managed to get some stuff back for him. But one of the things, like, I don't know if you deal with this as well, but I just I was thinking about this before we like started talking today. I thought I would probably be a lot better at Sorare if I spent considerably less time on Sorare. But because I love playing the game, I'll sit there scouting for players I don't even want to buy, and then I'll see a guy and I'll feel like if I don't buy him, I'm going to miss out on something. Whereas if I just didn't scout him, I would never have known about him, so I'd never have that fear of missing out, and I would in turn just be better. Like a couple of game weeks ago, I bought a Sivaspor stack, rare. It only cost me about 110 or 120 pounds, and the reason why I bought them is because the lineup was announced before the game week lock, so I knew all 5 were starting. And I put them into cap 220 because they're all really bad. And then, of course, they did nothing and won nothing. And now I've got £100 worth of players I just can't sell. And I just think if I just didn't look at the game week, if somebody in my stream didn't say, oh, by the way, the Civil War stack the Civil War lineup is out, I would have just never gone and wasted that money. And that's like 8% or 5% towards another really good super rare, just down the drain.
So there are two things with that. One is I have the same problem that when I do identify a card that I want, it's a little different, but I'm like, I find maybe it's usually a super rare because it's not something that like it takes me time to be like, I need this card. And the problem that I have is, particularly with super rares, when I need a card, I need it today. But I don't need it today. But like I need to buy this card today before someone else realizes what I've realized.
Yeah.
And I still haven't accepted the fact that the cards that I usually want are on the market for weeks and are unsellable. And I'm like, I need that card today. And I have taken no hints that nobody else wants them. And that's why they keep staying on the market. But there is this, I don't know if it's like really FOMO, but it falls under it. It feels like, because I'm like, if I don't get this card, somebody else is going to get it, and I'm going to lose out on all these hundreds he's going to get. I think the last one, I can't even remember what the last one was. It might have been that Ki Sung Yang, which is absurd because he's like just a guy. Yeah. But I was like, I need this card right now, or else I'm going to lose out on it. And that's the biggest fight that I have is just that. Like when I decide I need something, and this happened twice where I was like, I need to get this card today. And I didn't do the one bit of research of being like, when is his next game? And he was off the next week. There was a cup match or whatever it was. Yeah. And I was like, so I just went out of my way, probably overpaid because I need it right now. And the guy doesn't play for 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, great.
Yeah. What am I doing now? Yeah, that's difficult. I struggle to buy super rares in general because I can't be bothered to message people. So if there's a super rare on the market, I don't know, like £500, and the last sale was £300, I'll be like, yeah, maybe I'll pay like 320, 350. So I'll just offer that and they'll just reject it. And that'll be the end of it. And that's it, yeah. But what we'll say about cards that you don't buy that you want and cards that you sell that you thought might be good is that, at least in my experience, more often than not, I forget about them instantly. Like, so a card that I sold a week ago or a month ago might drop 100 today, and it won't mean anything. But if it's in the gallery and it drops 100, I'm furious because I could have played it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's
absolutely.
Like I still get FOMO of like selling cards. I'm like, I really don't want to sell him just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, half an hour after I've sold a card, I'm like, who's that guy again? I don't remember. Okay.
I I only remember because the number of cards that I've sold that have started just banging hundreds right after I sold them is not low. And it's always someone else be like, "Hey, don't you have that card?" And I'm like, "No, I sold it 2 days ago. No, I don't have that card."
But here's the thing, right? Every card I buy tanks immediately in scores. And similarly, most cards I sell start doing great and picking up. But everybody feels that way.
Yes.
It can't, I mean, it can be. It would be the strangest coincidence if that was the case. But yeah, like how, well, it can't be really, can it? Because if you sell a card that hits 100, somebody's bought that card. So they haven't tanked that card. But yeah, how can so many people feel like every time I buy someone start doing bad? And how do the people, this is the thing I don't understand. How do the people that are selling these cards know their form is about to drop off? Because what otherwise, why would you sell somebody who's
Right, right.
banging hundreds, right? You or hitting like regular 80s and 90s, you just wouldn't sell them. You put them in a priority lineup, you reap the benefits of those scores. But people were like, yeah, let me list this incredible player. I'm like, maybe I should start taking note. Maybe I should be like, oh, what's this guy know? I don't know. Has he got like a, I don't know, a toenail injury or something?
So, I think it doesn't feel like it's the case as much now as it used to. But there was absolutely a time where a high L5 score was like 90% of the reason why somebody would buy a card.
Yeah.
And realistically, a player who has like an 85 L5 is most likely not going to have an 85 L15.
Yeah.
And so I actually commend the people who are able to sell a guy who is just on an incredible streak. Because when you think of it, and this kind of goes back to the concept thing, you're like, this guy's really good. He scored 10 goals in 10 games and he's got a great AA, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go buy that guy. You don't get those scores.
No.
They already happened. I have this conversation with my son actually when it comes to like baseball cards or basketball cards. And he's like, yeah, that guy's really good. Look at all these scores. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't get that already happened. We don't get
Yeah.
those scores now.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, well, but could keep going. And I'm like, sure, all of it could keep going. And it's the same with football. That like, so there were definitely times where so the biggest problem is you're like, I just have to play this guy. Like,
Yeah.
why would, just like you said, why would I sell this guy? And it's like, well, because you're probably like high L5 and high price are very well correlated. And if you
It would
just
also,
sold those guys, buy them back when they go down. And nobody ever buys back cards, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I've done maybe like one or two times, but it would be interesting to see I suppose, a chart of like how often have players sustained after, players that had, say, for example, have never hit above an L60, an L15 60. When they go above an L15 or 60, how long do they sustain that before they drop below it again? Because then, in spite of what you can see, if that data says, 78% of players who go above an L60 after previously not having it for like 10 game weeks or something, go back below it within 5 game weeks, you'd all suddenly start putting that as part of your strategy. Be like, okay, this guy is above it, but statistically speaking, he's going to tail off again somewhere
sure.
down the line. It would be interesting to see that kind of data, because it probably would stop me from buying those guys that are in form. And then you see it and you're like, man, he's literally dropped like 300s in a row. And it's like, wow, what a guy. And then what you don't realize is the teams that he was playing against had like COVID outbreak and something else. And then and like, I don't know, he took set pieces for those 3 games because the other set piece taker was suspended or injured. And so as soon as he comes back, he loses those set pieces again. You just see those 300s. You're like, yep, this guy's on fire. Let's go and get him.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And my God, if he happens to be 22 years old, everybody's going to want to get
Yep.
right there. So Johanneton actually brought up exactly one of the guys I was thinking of, and it's Kevin Van Vleen, who is on. I mean, I think if he's not the top scorer, he's one of the top. in Scotland. But like this, I don't even know how many games. Like this is actually almost worse because if you start playing him, let's say, and he has 3 braces in 4 games, and you're like, I should probably sell this guy. Like this guy is not this good. I should sell him. And then he scores in 6, 7 more games, and you're just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. But like, this guy's not that good. Like, come on.
It's probably not. But like now, you obviously don't want to buy him now because he's got 1 game left. Maybe you do if he's staying. If you know that he's staying next season, maybe you do. If you bought him maybe like 4 or 5 game weeks ago, for I don't know, his rare was what, like $100, $120. Yeah, like
Not even.
In fact, he's more expensive with less utility. So
yeah, he's going. So this is it. People are like, oh, this guy's really good. Let me go buy him. He's playing really well.
Yeah.
Let me pay more now that there are fewer games left.
Yeah. So if you got him for $80, you're loving life right now because A, he's probably won you a whole bunch, and B, you can sell him for more. But actually, the truth of the matter is he does not go, like, nobody's putting him in All-Star Rare Pro, right? Nobody. And if you do, it's probably because you've got 4 other chances like him in All-Star Rare Pro. So you're not winning anything anyway. Which is fine, right? But for me and for you, like, and for galleries of our size, having his rare is utterly pointless because, as per the chart there are 133 better players than him in the game. And that's a lot of players when you can only put 5 into a lineup, right?
Right.
So if you can't get his super rare, you might as well just not even buy him. And his super rare, because if after scoring 1 goal, the guy that had his super rare listed probably upped it by 20%. Then the next goal, he probably upped it more. And it gets to a point where it's like, it's unreasonable to spend the $780 that's there on his super rare, because if he goes back to his L40 kind of form, you've now got a super rare you just can't sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's worth something, you won't be able to sell it.
The unsellable super rare is, I will say, because you clearly have but you have a hesitancy to like load up on super rares. The unusable super rare is absolutely dreadful. It's I have so many of them at this point. They're dreadful.
Yeah. I do. I've had some like lucky strikes actually. Like, so Umut Nair, who's Umrania sports striker, I bought him on auction for like £270, and his last sale was like £800, and he scores loads. He got called up to the Turkish national team. He made a few appearances like as a sub, and he is like Van Veen. He just consistently bags every single game week, and yet I never put him into a priority lineup. And then the 1 week that I'm like, do you know what? He's doing it. Let me put him into priority lineup. He tanks. I'm like, fuck's sake, I've got to stop this. So then I don't put him in a priority lineup the next game week again, and he drops like an 80. And I'm like, for crying out loud, man! Like, and so, like, because he's not like a household name, because he's not like someone that you just know, you just won't play him. But if Van Veen is getting minimum 60, 10 games in a row, sometimes up towards 80. You've got, like, Messi probably doesn't have that level of consistency within that score range. He might have a few more above the 80s, but Messi's got a few like 54s and 49s and stuff. So especially if you're looking to like just win rewards, right? You know, if you're competing and not compelting. Yeah. If you're only if you're only competing, Van Veen is 1,000% better than Messi, because he's more stable at that. I can win a reward with this scoreline. And then if it goes wrong with Van Veen, you're only $80 in the hole. Whereas if you've got Messi and it goes wrong with him, it's cost you God knows how much. So you could just carry on recycling through all the Van Veens of the world and not even hit the value of one Messi. And that's just better, isn't it? In a way. And that's why what I said earlier on is like having no strategy maybe is a strategy. Just having loads of options and hoping it just kind of accidentally comes together might be the best strategy, because it's just way cheaper.
It's I mean, it is way cheaper until it's not, because you're just like, oh, I need more. And at some point you end up with so many cards and you're like, maybe I should just trade all of these for Messi.
Yeah,
And
yeah, maybe. And that again, it goes back to the if you have a strategy, stick to it, and if you don't, you probably should get one because it, if you like if you do continually buy players at $80 all the time, there's nowhere. Okay, you can put them in cap mode, or you might be able to squeeze them into like Challenger Europe or something like that. And for me, like Fashion Sakala from Rangers was one. I bought him. Couldn't believe how cheap he was. A striker from Rangers. I was like, this guy started like 4 games in a row. He's dropping mad scores. I went and bought him for real cheap. Like I think it was like £85 or something. I'm like, Rangers are so dominant. Like what? People stupid not buying this guy. I bought him, and then somebody in my stream was like, yeah, he's not going to play like the next few weeks because such and such is back. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. So he didn't. And then he came off the bench and scored. And then for whatever reason, he must have just been doing well in training. He actually is now their starting striker. So I'm getting the benefits of those decent scores, but doesn't go in any priority lineups because I didn't buy him for a reason. I bought him to fill a hole in one game week.
I mean, that's absolutely the way you end up with a bunch of cards you don't want or use.
Yeah.
Is the 1 week fill in.
And then if I did like want to put him into a proper, if I was like, all right, he's going to be my Challenger Europe rare striker, I now need to go and buy 4 guys that make sense to make that team rather than the 4 guys that I've got that are like him, that are just in and out and everywhere. And then it's like, if I am going to actually build a Challenger Europe team, would he even be in it? He wouldn't. So then it's like, even if I build a team around him, he's the weak link. So I'd just go and buy someone better than him.
So I think that's absolutely something that so many people do, that you have a card that works in a lineup. Let's call it the challenger forward there. And you're like, yeah, let me build a lineup around this guy. And had you just a week earlier said like, oh, how would you build a Challenger Europe lineup? Like, this guy's not even a thought, let alone like, oh, there's a few guys I would take over. Like, not even a thought. And now you are buying 4 cards to play around this other one.
To accommodate a guy you just didn't want in the first place, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Haber said only idiots buy cards for 1 game week. And I like this Mike Baston, Tony Watt's strategy is to continually change his strategy.
Which does work for him, but it is because he has got, relatively deep pockets. It's all right when you can continually buy cards to change strategy, but like most people, especially that are playing limited, they can't afford to just keep plowing money into Sorare. So it's like, if it goes wrong, even if it's like $50, like I was watching your show just before with Gator Guy, and it's like you built a lineup for $35. I haven't got to the point where you've like revealed the points or anything yet, but $35 for a lineup, that is quote unquote cheap. That is a really respectable price. And then I do believe that you can build on that. One of the things that I think is bad from Sorare's perspective is the lack of things to do, the lack of progress is an issue because people are impatient. And this is what I was alluding to on my stream that I never ended up getting to, is if you spend $50 on a team, how long, maybe I did talk about it, how long would it take you to get that back and you'd be happy with it? And if that meant buying a $35 team that you added bits to that then amounted to $50, and that still took 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, how long is it before you're like, okay, I've yielded it back, that's perfect. And that progression, it takes so long to even make your money back. And of course, Sorare are not ROI investment wheel. That's not what they're here for. Some people can do it. Most people can't.
Yep.
But most people that play, near everybody that plays, wants to. And so the fact that you can't, that there's no like quick succession up to rare and super rare and beyond, I think it's why a lot of people buy stupid, because they're like, instead of like 1 lineup for $50, I'll have 3 lineups for $15 and I'll win 3 rewards. And it's like, even if you did, they might be worth like 60p instead of the 1 guy that you could have won that was worth like $5. And yeah, it's having a strategy, having the foresight to say, this is how long I'm happy with it not working until I want to make a change. And that would be great, I think, on Sorare data, is having like almost like a place to like put a five. Like, let's say I went and bought 5 players today, or I've just got 5 players in my gallery, and I plug them in, and Sorare can show the return, the rewards from those particular 5 players, because you've already got the data there, right? Because you've got it individually, and I can see that I spent X ETH over there, and then there's a bar that draws up to how much you've won with these players to get it. I could then put in my strategized 5 and be like, but this has cost me 1 ETH. I'm going to give it 12 weeks. And if this hasn't made me back 1 ETH in rewards, I'm going to change strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's shown then on Sorare, I can then go every week and be like, no, this was part of the plan. This is how it was going to work. And so I'm going to commit to my 12-week strategy and then change. The visualization of things like that, it might just be a me thing, but the visualization of things like that would really help me with like sticking to doing something. Because then at what point I pull a player out and put someone else in, it's like, no, I have to stay to what I've like said that I'm going to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's just on Sorare and you're just plugging your lineup in, and you're like this week alone, I had Odysseus and Grimaldo in All Star, and then I was like, no, they've got way too good of a matchup. I'm putting them on All Star Rare Pro. Then I was like, if they're 6-0 up and have basically won the league with 5 minutes left and decide to make like 11 changes, they're going to concede. So I can't have them in a priority lineup just in case. So I moved them into like Challenge Europe. And then I was like, no, they've got such a good matchup. So I moved them back into All Star Rare Pro. And if I just knew these are my All Star Rare Pro guys, no matter what, there would be no debating. And now I'm concerned. I'm like, if the 3 other guys that I had in All Star with them all pop off and they do too, and they're now in All Star Rare Pro, I'm going to be pissed I didn't just leave them there in the first place.
So you need to stop thinking about All-Star Rare as the place to be.
Yeah, I know.
Like Sean says here, he played them in All-Star Rare Pro. Like that's
I did in the end as well. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Like they were too good. I think the only place anybody could justify playing them elsewhere was in Golden 270 this week.
Yeah. But and I think Grimaldo's L15 is way too high for that, I think. So
I know a few people who did it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in my All-Star Rare Pro, I've got Haney Super Rare, Romulo, who's got a cracking matchup at home, and Chengdu are always really strong at home as well. But I've got Brandon Vasquez Super Rare in there, and he got injured in the cup match, and he was on sideline training. He wasn't like training with the group, but today he's back training with the group. And when the manager was talking about him, it's like he's available to play, but you still just don't know because they're away to Colorado Rapids, who aren't particularly the best team in the MLS these days, to the point where it's like, if Vasquez isn't 100% fit, do they risk him for a game like this? So that lineup, I might be looking at that come Monday or Tuesday morning and just cry my eyes out because I've got DMP Vasquez and everyone else is absolutely slayed. But it was a strategy. These were the 5.
Mm-hmm.
So come what may, this was the right thing to do, even if it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, I think the easiest way, I'll put it this way, that the easiest way to play Rare Pro is you need a bunch of cards for everything, but like the easiest way to play Rare Pro realistically, for me at least, is have a number of rare goalkeeper, super rare defender teammates and always play them together. But have a couple so that so I have like Adon rare, Coates super rare, Armani rare. Well, I had Palladia super rare, and that card has been an absolute disaster for me. But things like that. And then, like Sean said, goalie defense, super rare stacks. Yeah. And you have this Mukhtar. Like that card should be probably in this All-Star Rare Pro all summer. That's easy. Romelu too. Yeah. So you have like 2 already done.
Yeah. So and so I need the goalkeeper and defender now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also have like Gressel super rare and Hector Herrera super rare. and they're both really good scorers. Now I do
Yeah, they
have
are.
Takaoka, but Whitecaps they're better than they were last year, but they're just not good
Yeah.
enough. Like that's just not a premium pairing to have. Although Armani hasn't kept a clean sheet in about like 3 months, Armani and a River super rare would be ideal, because you would like to think that over time they would just keep keeping those clean sheets, which then means I've got Herrera, Clark, and Gressel super rares
It
all
didn't work this week.
to go somewhere else. Yeah. Oh, did he had an error this week as well? Oh dear. Oh, do you know, when I look at things like that, I think his error, if he doesn't make the error, not only does he not get the negative decisive, they obviously don't concede because he didn't make the error. So he gets the positive decisive off of the back of it. So it is a humongous point swing from that one error, one mistake in the whole game.
I finished first place without the error.
Is that right? Yeah, that's pain. That is a lot of pain.
First place.
Yeah.
I was third at the time before, like, obviously they lost the clean sheet, but I have like the double clean sheet possibility. And I was in third. And I was like, even if they conceded, I was going to be still third.
Yeah.
And then the error pushed me to eighth.
Yeah, that is pain. You know what, I was looking when I was going through my lineup just a second ago to look at what I had on the All-Star Rare Pro. I was thinking about it, and one of the issues I have with lineup building is I play my favorite players and players that I love, or cards that I just love, more than I play somebody that makes sense. So in an All-Star Rare, as I've learned over the last few days, talking to Sean and watching your guys' podcast where he was talking about how All-Star Rare is just too hard to win because there's just too many entrants. In All-Star Rare, I would always play. I would just play somebody that I just love. I'm like, yeah, like I bought this card. I love this card. Like, he's gonna do me all right this week. And it's just a bad lineup. And the second division rare guys that I bought, they're insane. They score so well, and
Yeah.
all I keep doing is putting him in second division. And it's like, why? How have I not put even one of them in All Star Rare yet? And it's because I would rather play David Neres, who I've got in All Star Rare, because I just like him. I spent a lot of money on that card. He obviously come down in value massively now, but I spent a lot of money on him. He's playing really well, and Benfica are playing really well. So it's like, he's going to do it for me. But the logical choice was putting Crasso from Saint Etienne in, because he's penalty taker. He's their main target man. He scores all their goals, and he will score more points this week than David Neres. But I still put Neres in All-Star Rare because I like him.
So I do something similar, and I actually make it even dumber. I'll play like older card. Like I have the 2018 19 Vanaken. Like I love this card.
Yeah, the he's got a different color, isn't he? He's not quite red.
It's just older, like an older. Let me see if I can pull it up here. It's just a beautiful card. And literally nobody outside of Sorare would even care. But I love this card. And not that he has like that many bad matchups, so it's like fine. But I will play it also with a Juni Ito 2019 card. Oh, it's the same year.
Yep.
For this one too. And like Ito is fine. I might have paid more for this card than anyone has ever paid for a card ever. Oh, never mind. Oh, wait.
Wait, did you buy him before he moved?
It was before he moved. Like he was supposed to be at Gank. And I remember when I bought it, I tweeted about it. And somebody was like, oh, so you like the Leicester rumors? And I was like, and I'm like, what? And then like someone was like, no, the Leicester was dead. And I'm like, all right, thank God. And then this stupid move to France happened. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
His scores actually, I mean, for what I paid, they're not good, but he's whatever. But I ended up playing those two together because I was like, I just really like those cards. And I'm like, what? I'm like tanking cards. And actually, from my lineup from this midweek, that Paulo Diaz super rare. So Sean, who's here, gives me so much shit for that card. And he's completely justified for it. So I had a 5-player River Plate rare stack for a long time and had a Paulo Diaz rare. And for so long, he was like, you should get a Paulo Diaz super rare. Like, just go to Rare Pro, and that's the card. Because Diaz was locked in. He was great. And he was just like, it was just always too expensive. And I finally got one, and he's been, just like we were saying, he's been trash since I got it. But I put him, like, I overplay the card. Like, if he's like, because he's been hurt a bunch and he's like questionable play, and I'm like, I need to make back what I put in it. So, like, I'm going to play. The number of lineups, I don't even want to see how many cards I've won with that card. I want to see how many lineups he killed because I played him. But, like, that's my problem, actually. It's like, it's not even like my favorite card. It's just like, I have to get a return from this card so that I can justify how much I spent. And then never make a lineup like that.
Yep. It's always the way. It would be cool for Sorare. I know the possibilities of constantly giving out cards and making tournaments it just won't work long term. But wouldn't it be cool if they released like a tournament just next week for like 2019 cards only? Like so yeah, like a mixed scarcity. First place gets like a tier 3 super rare. Second place gets some rare, like maybe like top 10 get some rare through like tier 1 through tier 3, and then the next like 500 people get just some limiteds. But you have to use 2019 cards. I think that sort of stuff would be cool because it adds more to the reason to collect cards. Like imagine like a special edition Sunrise tournament, and the reward, all of the rewards are Sunrise special cards, which then gives you collector bonus score for those in your collections. Yeah,
all that fun shit.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Pap, who is Sorare Pitti, Pitti, Sorare, yeah, I think that's what it is on Twitter, posted a lineup the other day that he played that it was some rare lineup. It was 5 cards, all different years, but it was like he had every year. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And I made a lineup, and I was like, this isn't a good lineup, but I'm making it. And shockingly, it didn't win anything. But I was like, that was fun. I want to do that. Like, I want more special stuff like that.
Yeah, it would be good. I nearly got my first ever owned lineup out a few months back in All-Star Limited. I won David Raya, who does really well. I won William Saliba, and then I had a few. There were just rewards as well, not even first owner off auction house, like 5 rewards, and it was a really, really good lineup. And then Saliba got injured, and so I couldn't play the lineup. And it would have won a reward, and I thought that would have been the first time that I'd ever won a reward with just rewards. And that for me, I think the first time we spoke, I'm not quite sure, but the first podcast I was on, like my end goal is to have only rewards in my gallery and to be winning rewards with rewards. That is like my ultimate Sorare goal.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
I think the only reason why, not the only reason, plenty of reasons why I can't do that. I just don't win high. I don't finish highly enough to get all the goalies I need.
Yeah.
And usually if I win a goalie, I'm like, great, I'm going to sell this guy because I'm not going to use him. I did it recently. Like I won a goalie, let me see, 2 weekends ago. And I was like, he doesn't fit my strategy, so I'm just selling him. And first owner gone, all that stuff. And I was just
everything gone. Yeah.
I think you just have to be really flexible in that sense, though, because you start like you end up getting wed to players you don't really want. You're getting wed to players that you were given. It's an arranged marriage.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But if it's a good player like Odysseus, I won.
Wow.
And yeah, which was really cool. And his points alone have netted me 0.32 ETH of rewards from a card that I won. And I think like that's just awesome. Now if I sold him when I won him, the discrepancy between his price drop and the rewards I won, I actually would have been better off just selling him. Right? But if I sold him, I've lost any more upside from him.
Yeah, of course.
The maximum amount of money I can get for him. If I hope he stays at Benfica, I can yield so much more for him long term. And then obviously the Enzo, it was a bit the Enzo winning Enzo, and Enzo was in the lineup that won the other Enzo, and that's like, that is awesome. I love that sort of stuff. I got rid of both my Enzos because of his transfer, but I really do like playing with cards that I won. I just similarly, I just don't win enough, and when I do win, especially super rares, they're of such terrible quality. The only the only good player that I won, and when I won him, I was like gassed. It was Jonathan Burkhart, and Channy was like, "Oh my god, dude, he's like like Germany's next big thing. Like he's going to be amazing. Like you've won someone incredible, and he has been injured the whole time. And I won him almost a year ago.
Ah,
Yeah, and so, but he's one of 10, and because he's injured this year, I don't believe there's too many more,
hmm.
which gives me quite an quite an exceptional piece. Let me see.
Yeah. That's definitely fun.
Yeah, yeah. So there's
The
only 3 of him from this season, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, those short prints are always fun. I was going to go somewhere else with that, and now I can't remember what it was. Short print, Burkhart, winning bad
winning
rewards.
terrible, trashy. Yeah.
Just oh, I remember now. How many times have you won a card that you were thinking of buying?
Maybe once, and that was Saliba. But it was only as limited. But because I wanted, like, when the Arsenal when they got the Premier League rights, I wanted all the Arsenal guys. So winning an Arsenal player was like, yeah, that was nice. But I think Odyssey S is definitely somebody that I wanted to buy. I was saying this maybe even to Sean the other day when I was talking to him about it. It's like I know that the best players at the best teams are the best players to have, and yet I have almost none of them. I don't
So,
have any of the Benfica guys. I don't have any of the Zagreb guys. I don't have any of the Celtic guys. None of the Man City guys. I just have these weird guys from these weird teams, and that's it.
so you okay? I'm glad you brought that up because you talked about it on Wednesday, and that was something I wanted to bring up because what was the word you used? I think it was shambolic, which is that's one of my favorite words anyway. But you were like, it's shambolic that over the last 9 months you have not bought any of the best players from the best teams, and I think a little of that goes into because of how much time you spend scouting players. Because I
Yeah,
don't think the best players from the best teams are always the best way to win this game. Like your Vavro card, you don't find that
yeah,
card if you're just like, I just want the best players in the best team.
yeah. No, absolutely.
And you never buy Romelu or Davidson. Like those
Yeah,
are elite cards that nobody knows are as good as they are in any fantasy game if they're not like into so rare.
yeah. That's very true.
And getting those guys, I think. So I've actually never said this to Sean. He's here, or at least he's in the chat, so I'll say it now. So Sean's strategy now is significantly different than his strategy like a year or two ago. Sean was always and I go back to his Chicago Fire stack. Like he was always about how there are players in this game who are better scorers than the guys everybody actually knows. And if you can identify those players, you can win the guys that everybody knows, and you
Yeah,
can keep them or sell them or whatever it is. That's a strategy that most people should use.
yeah,
And you get to a point, and Sean has gotten to that point where you're like, all right, those guys were fun. I'm just going to go buy Kimmich now.
yeah,
Or whoever. He won Kimmich, actually. I'm going to go buy Mbappe. I'm going to go buy Messi, whoever it is. But it's almost impossible to get to that step unless you come in just with loads and loads of money. It's impossible to get to that step without playing Dennis Vavro and finding Vavro. And
yeah,
I think when I was watching your stream, like you have pieces. Like you are the way that you like, I think your results, I don't want to call them like unlucky, but I think that there's a lot of upside in your gallery, like right now, that now that you are thinking more on the rare pro side, like I think it's coming, Nep.
I hope so. I hope so. Channy was in my stream the other day actually, and he said your problem is like even if a non-household name is incredible, I don't put them in priority lineups. Like Vavro, even to this day, I get nervous putting him in a priority lineup, and I don't know why. His scores speak for themselves. I've watched enough Copenhagen to know that he's quality, but it's as always with the human mind, the negative. I think there was a study done. Is like you need 79 positive things for you to counterbalance every one negative thing. Like that's how the brain works. Like if you hear a negative that will stick with you 79 times more than a positive. And when we talk about Vavro, at the start or the second half of this season, when it came back like a couple months ago, one of the guys on my stream was like, "Yeah, the coach doesn't really like Vavro. Like, I'm a massive Copenhagen fan because he's not good at like passing the ball out, and they really want to play like a progressive passing game from the back." And so since then, that's the thing that sticks in my mind. I'm like, if he has one bad game, is that him toast? Like, is he
Right,
just
right.
going to get dropped because of that? And it's just a ludicrous thing to continually use as the reason why to not put him into priority lineups. But then eventually I do get to a point where I'm like, no, let me do it. And then the week I put him in a priority lineup, he was last week, he dropped 34 points. And I only needed about 55 from him to get a reward in All-Star Super Rare. And the better he did, the better I would have done. And it's like this week now it didn't work. But if I had done it in all those prior weeks, it would have been superb. So I have to now continue doing it going forwards, which isn't easy because I have got some really good super rares, but only on matchups, not consistently. So like I can't put Vavro in this time around because then I'd have Grimaldo, Vavro, Odysseus, Aney, and I couldn't put Romulo in the team because I'd need a striker, and Romulo will probably outscore Vavro even with the super rare bonus. So yeah, it can't work like that. But I feel like I'm on the precipice of everything kind of like snowballing in a really favorable way, which is why I'm like trying to get confirmation from other people that me investing more now is a good idea, because I'm like, yeah, if I just have one or two more like really smart pieces, everything comes together. But this is what I asked Sean with this regard on something, and it was like, what do I want from So Rare? Do I want to actually take money out of So Rare and be free rolling, or do I just want to know that the money I've got in So Rare, if I decided to get out, is what I put in? And I think that's what I want. Like, so I've put about 110,000 into So Rare, and my gallery is worth like 55,000 or something. So if I put in another 20 ETH and made it 135,000, I don't actually want to withdraw any of that. I just want to know that my gallery is worth 135,000, because at that point I could go to Pavel and get like 20 quid or something, you know. So
Before I respond to that, Sean responded that he still likes the non-superstar. He likes the Vavro types. It's just good to have those guys too. I'm not saying that he doesn't like those guys anymore. It's more just when you get to a point where you can either win or you can afford to buy Mbappe or Messi or Kimmich or whoever on those lines, the game changes. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, the game is different for people who can play those guys.
it is. I was going through, it might have been on the stream that you watched, I was going through other people's lineups and how much they spent on their lineup and what they won with it. And every time I see Mbappe, like, he is just a gross waste of money. He is, because he does score well and he scores consistent, but he is exceptionally more expensive than almost everybody else. And yet he's not number one ranked player on the site. So therefore he's way too expensive. Way too expensive.
Even if he was, because there was a time where he was the highest, I think by L15 or L40, he was number one. But the gap to number two, points wise, was small, and price wise was gigantic. So yeah, no, I agree with that. And Sean says he can confirm it. Mbappe is super fraudulent.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong, you're obviously going to win a lot with Mbappe, right? You're going to win as long as you've got him in a good lineup. You're going to win constantly with him.
So, but that's because of the other pieces. Like, very rarely do you see Mbappe with four guys that you and I have.
It's true. Yeah. If you can afford an Mbappe, you can afford a Kimmich and a Messi and a Tadic and everybody else. Yeah,
right.
I like what Surface asked real quick. I think the Fiat wallet, from the people that have spoken to me, the people that I've got on stream and stuff, the Fiat wallet is a massive, massive win in terms of getting people on board. I do believe that they need to simplify the onboarding process from a actual like learning to play the game point of view. But even a friend of mine that I was chatting to last night, I was talking to him a bit about Sorare, and he was like, "Oh, I'd love to get involved, man, but I just don't not into that crypto stuff." I'm like, don't worry about that. Soon enough, the whole crypto side of things is effectively buried,
Yep.
and I think that's great for Sorare. Like people that still want to base everything off of Ethereum and have that kind of like second layer still can, but people that just want to buy something for £10 and sell it for £12, even if that's way more ETH or way less ETH, doesn't matter anymore. And I think that's going to be huge for Sorare. I think it's
Yeah.
huge.
Totally agree. Bouncy was asking if that means fiat withdrawals. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I think so. I actually think that was always much more important than you can deposit fiat. And it's like people want to know that they can get their money out without having to get crypto wallets and MetaMask and whoever else use. And yeah, that's I think it's like literally the biggest change that they could make. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah. Sorry, go back to Mbappe being terrible.
Neither of us have them.
Yeah. Like somebody in the chat there said, like the funny thing with the Mbappes is Joe said on Sunday, just watching 10 people just move up and down with each other as Mbappe is playing. It's like, yeah, and that's why sometimes it's fun to have those differentials, you know, those different pieces. And I saw you on your podcast with Gator Guy, you were showing the power rankings page or something that you said is like such a good tool. I actually really like the it might be populated now. It wasn't earlier. The impact players. You was looking at pick scores. I love looking at impact players, and it doesn't change. Like I could stare at it for like 12 hours, and nothing will change. Like it doesn't make my lineups better or anybody else's lineups worse. It doesn't change the fact that I'll still finish where I finish. But seeing like 17 people's goalkeeper have an error that led to goal is just like, let's go, because it doesn't just kill that goalkeeper; it kills that lineup.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, one of those had Mbappe, brilliant. That Mbappe is done for today. That's brilliant. So even if Mbappe does sick, all of a sudden I can still win All-Star Rare Pro because that guy had an error that led to goal somewhere else. So yeah, I really like. I use the impact players page now a little bit more to kind of like manage my expectations of the game week as to where I can go and where I can't. Coutinho's suspended this week, by the way, Mike Baston. I don't know if you knew that. One popped up on the market a bit cheaper earlier, and I was like, yes, I can finally get him. And then I was like, oh no, never mind, he's out.
He's out for one game week, so I'm just not going to buy him now.
Yeah.
The impact players page, that's like a personal thing that I'm working on to redo, because what I want to see is when you pull up Mbappe and just like, where are all the rare Mbappes?
Yeah.
And so are there 12, like without going to 8 different pages of like, is he in U23 rare pro, champion, just all of that, so that I can see.
That'd be a simple, just like a little hover feature, right? Hover over it, over the, like if there's 8 in All-Star Rare Pro, hovering over that 8 and then just populating a little thing to the side that shows you where the others are.
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
As somebody who doesn't do any of the technical work, I'm just like, just do that. Yeah. Whatever. I think you have to go relatively soon.
Yeah.
And if anyone has
the thing about Sorare, isn't it? You could just talk about it literally all day.
It's what I actually have found, and as somebody who works for Sorare Data, I greatly appreciate it, is how much of your stream on Wednesday that I caught, that you stopped talking about Sorare, but you used Sorare Data. It was the whole Calvin Phillips thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, just easily see how many games he's played. And it's like, that wasn't a Sorare conversation at all. I will say somebody tried to trade me a Calvin Phillips super rare recently and I was like, that's an interesting card, but I don't even remember why I said no.
Because he's terrible. Yeah. He's not. He's just he's the kind of player that needs to be in a team to value him and not. Yeah. He'll never make it a City, I think. Yeah. So I love Sorare Data for that. And one thing that I would, what was I looking at before? Where I was like, oh, I wish they had this feature. It was, so when you look at players' historical scores, to grab somebody from my lineup now, being able to sort that by season would be incredible. I don't know the logistics of how difficult that would be to do, but yeah, I would love to, instead of looking at just that team or just that nation, but just that season would be ideal.
Do you find it's just kind of arbitrary though?
Um,
Like the L40 presumably takes care of that at least by the end of the season, but I guess not now. Yeah.
yeah, so like 10 games into a new season, I would like, and then being able to switch between like 2023 and 2022 and be like, okay, they might still be the same player on the same team, but their scores have dramatically improved this season. Finding out the catalyst to that, and then potentially picking them up, or maybe some players around them that are doing well. Like, yeah, that would. Again, I'm sure you've got a list of things that are as long as the day, and this is probably right down there at the bottom. But if it's one of those quick things, because you've already got like seasonal functionality within Sorare data, that would be really nice to have. Yeah.
All right. As an affiliate now, we'll just move that from last to the second to last, whatever.
Oh, nice.
Whatever baseball feature there is there. All right, cool. So I'll let you go. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you guys haven't hit the like button, please do so. I completely forgot that this was my solo show, but that was a lot of fun. And because this show has no actual strategy or whatnot, maybe we'll just have a guest all week. I was giving Nellis shit because it feels like he's giving up on his show.
Oh, is he?
No, he's definitely not. But I'm
no.
giving him crap for like he missed 1 week, and I'm like, what are you doing? Come on. I appreciate, like, I'm a very routine person, and part of my Friday routine is listening to his show. Okay. And he completely messed up one of my Fridays, and now I won't let him get away with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, do I have to start my own show where I have a guest every week? And I think that spurred him on to get. And then he took Sean just to throw it in.
No way. Yeah. I watched that one actually. Yeah. Terrible.
So did I.
Terrible.
Yeah. It was really bad.
Yeah.
That's probably the end of it. That probably killed the show, the whole thing. Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, thank you, Nep. Thank you very much. This will certainly not be the last time that I ask you to come on, because like we said, hour and 20 minutes, and I feel like we just started. So thank you for that. Thank you everyone for joining us, and good luck this week.